Part 29, Glasses Production. Yi Yang, who was in the Ministry of Industry, was standing beside the hot stove, sweating profusely, instructing the craftsmen to make glasses. The craftsmen are all strong and powerful people with amazing lung capacity. They hold a hollow iron pipe with a glass solution on one end, put it in a mold and start blowing glass. Because of countless failure experiences, they gradually gained the experience and developed the need to rotate the glass rod while blowing the glass, so as to prevent the front end of the solution from falling. Suddenly, someone shouted excitedly, "Young concubine Yi, I succeeded, I succeeded." When Yi Yang heard this, he instantly became refreshed. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and came to the craftsman, who shouted. Looking at the glass with a lot of impurities, he did not show disgust, but a look of joy. "You know, this glass is the first glass they made after half a month." Okay, that's it." Yi Yang raised the glass and said to the surrounding craftsmen, "Everyone, this is the glass. Look at it, does it look good?" Everyone was curious when they saw the translucent glass for the first time. "It's beautiful, like Lu Li. Although it's not as good looking as Lu Li. Our glass is more practical. Yes, it's much better than that beautiful and useless thing. The glass is better than the Lu Li of the Holy Dynasty. Everyone. This glass can be made in all kinds of styles. You can make it according to the drawing I drew. When the time comes, the skilled craftsmen will all be given allowances." When they heard the allowances, everyone was very motivated and quickly returned to their post, blowing glass. Yi Yang took the first glass and went to the sink to wash the glass, but he was still worried when he saw the glass full of impurities. So, he took the glass and went to the stove again. And after boiling it for 10 minutes, he took the glass and poured a glass of the wine he made not long ago. The grapes are purple, and they came from the Mengyan kingdom as tribute. And he had the cheek to ask the emperor for it. Due to time constraints, he did not choose homemade wine, but soaked it in wine. The taste is definitely not as good as wine. But it depends on the color. But it looks better than homemade wine. He took a sip of the wine, felt the deliciousness brought by the wine, and let out a contented sigh. "Master, is it so delicious?" Xiao Doubting, who was behind him, saw Yi Yang's contented expression, and he was so greedy that his saliva was almost drooling. Recently, his master has invented several delicious foods, each of which is so delicious that it is suspicious of life. Now seeing Yi Yang's satisfied face, he smacked his mouth and wanted to try it. "It's not too good to drink." Yi Yang shook his head. Compared with the wine of his era, this wine was much worse, but because of the familiar taste and the glass in his hand, it seemed that he had suddenly returned to his original era. Xiao Doubting was about to open his mouth to complain when Eunuch Yun's unique, shrill voice came. "The emperor is here. Is this emperor a devil? He shows up every time I eat?" Yi Yang raised the glass and complained inwardly. Since the first time he was caught by the emperor with a bowl of lemonade, the emperor appeared so coincidentally every time he ate. He took another sip of the wine and wanted to put the glass down, but thinking that this was the result of the first glass, it was time to show it to the emperor. So he lifted the glass and went to meet the emperor. "See my emperor, long live my emperor." Yi Yang knelt in the first place and shouted, "Long live." Jun Yi watched Yi Yang meet him with the food again, raised his eyebrows and teased, "Concubine Yi really loves food. You eat every time I come here." Yi Yang said, "I was helpless too." But this time it was time for him to introduce the things in his hands. He knelt up straight and said, "Your Majesty, you can't wrong me this time. This is a glass we have worked hard to make day and night. Your Majesty, look at this glass. Does it look good?" Only then did Jun Yi notice the glass in Yi Yang's hand. only to see that the glass was translucent, like the colored glaze of the Holy Dynasty, especially the purple-pink liquid in the glass, which was even more beautiful under the glass. Is this the glass you're talking about? Jun Yi showed a curious look like a child. He took the glass and looked at it carefully. Back to the emperor, this is the glass I am talking about. Because this glass is the first to be made, the shape is a bit ugly, but as long as the craftsmen are given enough time, I believe they can make a more beautiful and delicate glass cup. Yi Yang believes that as long as the craftsmen are given some time, glass products such as goblets, glass vases, glass plates and so on will be made one after another. Jun Yi nodded. The first time he saw the glass, he already thought that the glass was very beautiful, especially the liquid in the glass. The color was beautiful, and there was a faint smell of wine. It smelled very good. What's it? He put a sip on his lips, and Yi Yang's eyes widened in shock. Please, that's the wine I've had. Compared with his depression, Eunuch Yun was so frightened that he rushed over and shouted, "No! The emperor can't be. What if this is poisonous?" Eunuch Yun looked anxious, deeply afraid that the emperor would die like this. Jun Yi didn't care. He recalled the sweetness of the wine, and a light flashed in his eyes. It tastes good. What is this? Yi Yang hurriedly replied. Back to the emperor, this thing is wine. Soaked from grapes wine. That's right, I'll bring some wine to my star palace later. Jun Yi took another sip from the glass. Your Majesty. Eunuch Yun wanted to persuade him. But Jun Yi gave him a knife eye, which scared Eunuch Yun to shut up. Jun Yi looked at the people who were still kneeling and said, "Get up." Only then did everyone dare to stand up. And they all bowed their heads, not daring to look directly at the current saint. Of course, except for Yi Yang, who lived under the red flag since childhood. Yi Yang looked at his wine. He was so depressed, he only took 2 sips before he was taken by the emperor. Jun Yi saw Yi Yang looking straight at the glass in his hand. A smile appeared in his eyes, and asked, "Is concubine Yi so stingy? I just drank your glass of wine. I mean, shouldn't you be stingy? I had the cheek to ask for grapes, and you just gave me 2 bunches of grapes. I just soaked these 2 bunches of grapes in a small jar of wine, and you asked for them. Forget it. Now you still call me stingy. Do you want to be so irritating?" Jun Yi seemed to see Yi Yang's depression, and said with a smile, "I'll send someone to send a few bunches of grapes later. Concubine Yi will need to make more wine." Looking at Yi Yang's more depressed expression, Jun Yi said, as if happier, the corners of his mouth rose and he took another sip of wine. Not to mention, this wine is really delicious, with the unique aroma of grapes and a hint of sweetness, and the taste is luscious, much better than the watery wine in the palace. Your Majesty, you can't arrest me alone. Yi Yang felt that his abilities were about to be destroyed by the emperor. With the success of the first cup, it was easier for the craftsmen to make it. And countless cups of different styles were presented in front of everyone one after another. Looking at the beautiful glasses, the craftsmen are very proud, work harder. And the number of glasses is increasing day by day. And Yi Yang, who had been away from the palace for more than half a month, returned to the palace under the emperor's special move. Just waiting for Yi Yang to stand in front of the Jinyang Palace. Looking at the Jinyang Palace that was the same as half a month ago, Yi Yang really wanted to point at the emperor's nose and curse. Fuck. You are too fucking good at bullying. It's been more than half a month. Is my Jinyang Palace a ghost place after the earthquake? Of course, he could only silently slander in his heart. And dare not say it, otherwise the head is separated from the body. Just when he was depressed about where he should live tonight, Eunuch Yun walked over with a smile on his face. Concubine Yi. Because you have been living in the Ministry of Industry for a while, and you don't live in the Jinyang Palace for the time being, The craftsmen who repaired the palace gave priority to repairing other palace where people will live. Eunuch Yun smiled, which made Yi Yang out of breath. Yi Yang just straightened his face and expressed his dissatisfaction. Eunuch Yun was ashamed for a while. You must know that this Jin Yang palace was specially repaired by the craftsmen at the end of the day. The purpose was to let Yi Yang live in the Star Palace. Seeing Yi Yang's stern face with a displeased expression on his face, he quickly said, "Young concubine Yi," the emperor said, "let you go to the Star Palace for a period of time. This is the honor of being a concubine." He believes that Yi Yang will definitely be very happy to nod and agree. But Yi Yang's face is even more gloomy. As a straight man, Yi Yang certainly didn't want to live in the Star Palace. During this time, he had been playing so much in the Ministry of Industry that he almost forgot the fact that he was a male concubine. When he suddenly returned to the palace, he suddenly remembered his identity as a male concubine. He was so depressed. Heaven, earth, please send me back. Although 1,000 or 10,000 Yi Yang were reluctant, in this feudal system, he had no right to say no at all. He was downcast, and in the eyes of all the concubines. He lived in the Star Palace. Side Hall. In the side hall of Star Palace, Xiao Doubting happily made the bed for Yi Yang. "Young master, it's great. You can finally share the bed with the emperor tonight." Yi Yang, who was sitting at the table pretending to look at the bamboo slips, felt goosebumps all over his body, and could not wait to turn around and run away.